This video is brought to you by Atomic Wheels, your go-to source for premium fully forged rims for your electric vehicle. Enhance the style and range of your Tesla or Rivian today. Go to atomicwheels.com and use code TFLEV for 10% off your order.
ZDX is Acura's first all-electric SUV, and in today's video, we have our first opportunity to drive this car on the road and tell you everything that you need to know about this brand new Acura ZDX. As far as styling, one of the most striking things about this new Acura ZDX is how long the wheelbase of this vehicle is. It's a 121.8-inch wheelbase, and if you look online, you'll find that a Chevy Tahoe has almost exactly an inch shorter wheelbase than this vehicle, even though it's very low profile. So it does give this a very elongated and, in my mind, good proportion to it. And that's also part of the reason that here on this Type S, these 22-inch wheels actually size well with the rest of the vehicle. This size of wheel suits how long this car actually is. And then hiding behind the wheels is one of the things that makes the Type S special. Those are 6-piston Brembo brakes, and this is a 15.6-inch brake here in the front. So massive brakes that you get here with the Type S to match the rest of the performance. And then on this particular model, it's finished in red with a black top. A little bit of bright work just to give you some contrast, but overall a very sharp vehicle. The lighting matches a lot of what Acura is doing in the rest of their lineup, and around the front, the grille even lights up, which is a pretty cool little touch. One of the headline features here on the ZDX is performance, especially with a Type S, so giving it full throttle, it'll definitely put you back in the seat. It's not quite the whip crack breakneck acceleration that you get on some Teslas. It's not nauseating, but it definitely throws you back because this Type S makes nearly, as Acura says, 500 horsepower. The exact number we found out is 499, and in sport mode, 544 pound-feet of torque. Substantial number. And when you go into sport mode, which you do with a oddly placed button down here below my vent on the driver's side, when you go into sport mode, it doesn't only change how much power is delivered to you, it actually changes the suspension. So a difference between the Type S that we're in right now and one of the lower level A specs is that you go from coil suspension to air suspension on this model. So this car actually drops down about 0.6 of an inch in sport mode. And then you've got a few other modes, including a snow mode, which will actually lift the car about an inch from its normal driving height. And the car also has adaptive dampers. So that's all part of the package that you get with the Type S if you choose to go for this more high performance option. But even if you just get the standard all-wheel drive model of this car, you're still gonna have 490 horsepower, 437 pound-feet of torque. So it's down a good bit on torque compared to this Type S, but even the regular all-wheel drive has almost 500 horsepower. And the base level car has 358 horsepower, so there's no version of the ZDX that isn't pretty quick, but the Type S has the most. One of the most important aspects of performance on any EV is how quickly you can recharge. And this ZDX has a peak charging rate of 190 kilowatts. This is a very competitive class of vehicle, and 190 kilowatts is not the fastest charging out there. But Acura claims that you will be able to go from 20 to 80% battery in as little as 42 minutes if everything is working out just fine. And this car does work with the NACS charging standard, so you will be able to charge this car at Tesla charging stations. It is a well-known fact that this ZDX is a shared platform with General Motors. This is on an Ultium platform. And nowhere is that more apparent than when you step inside of the vehicle, because parts of this interior are shared directly with GM vehicles. Things like the stalks here behind the steering wheel, even the controls on the steering wheel itself, and over to these climate controls. Now, that's not to say that that is a bad thing, because these controls, well, it's nicer to use, in my mind, than a touchscreen. So we do have actual physical buttons for changing your climate control. Another shared thing that you'll notice with GM vehicles is this key. This key is actually the same key that you'll get with a lot of GM vehicles, but with an Acura badge on it. Acura has still had their hand in a lot of parts of this interior, and the materials in general are pretty good. There are some parts of it that feel just a little bit on the plasticky side of things, but still everything looks sharp, it's comfortable, and then there's a lot of really good tech in this interior. So I have a heads-up display in front of me. We've got Acura's Handsfree Cruise system, and we've also got a Bang & Olufsen 18-speaker audio system throughout this car. And that is not only a Type S thing, that is standard on every version of the ZDX. We've also got a nice set of screens. So directly in front of me, there's an 11-inch instrument cluster, and then next to that, there's an 11.3-inch infotainment screen that supports wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. We've even got a camera mirror and this huge sunroof above me. So a lot of really nice things in this interior. It's not a bad place to sit by any stretch of the imagination. In the back seat, the amenities don't stop. We still have a lot of Bang & Olufsen speakers that are built into our doors. We've got some shades that we can put up here for a little extra darkness and privacy in the back. We've also got our own climate controls and heated outboard seats. And I've got, of course, an armrest and cup holders here in the back, and the sunroof extends all the way back here. So really, even in the back seat, it's a nice place to sit, and spacious at that. Plenty of leg room, and I've got a decent amount of headroom. I'm 5'10". I think if you were much over 6 feet, you might start running out of headroom just because of the low roof line of this car, but as long as you fit in the back seat, it should be a pretty nice place to sit. And if you've got electronics that you want to keep powered up, there's 2 USB-C chargers and a full outlet. Now, another nice feature that you get on this car is Acura's Handsfree Cruise, and this is a pretty familiar system to us. So the nice thing that I can do here is that I can take my hands off the wheel, and so long as I'm paying attention to what's going on in front of me, because there's a camera monitoring what I'm looking at, I can just let the car do its thing. This is by far, in my mind, the most convenient system like this to use, because you don't have to constantly tug at the wheel to let it know you're there. If you want a car to steer itself, why would you want to hold on to the wheel? So this is a great system that is thanks in part to this partnership with General Motors, and this makes this car very easy on a road trip. It's also very comfortable suspension. It's nice and plush, so it's a pretty easy thing to cruise around, and even on these 22-inch wheels, really doesn't beat you up. This, as far as a road trip EV goes, could be really good. Not the greatest charging figure out there on the market, so you're not going to be the quickest charging, but you'll certainly be comfortable if you choose to take this long distance. As far as utility, there is a power lift gate here in the rear that exposes you to this trunk area, and it's pretty wide and pretty deep, not super tall because again we have a fairly low roof line, but with the seats folded up, we've got 28.7 cubic feet of space back here. That's where we're putting all of our bags for the time being, and then underneath we've got a little bit of extra storage. Not a ton, it's not super deep. Actually, on the A-Spec we were checking out the other day, there's a bit more depth in here, but just a little extra underneath. And then if you go fold the seats down, which you can do as a power function, which is pretty cool, then you get 62 cubic feet of space. It doesn't fold quite flat, but nearly, and that'll give you a decent amount of room to haul around whatever you need. Now, none of the ZDXs that are here on the program are equipped with a hitch, but if you do spec one with a hitch, you'll be able to tow 3,500 pounds, which is really not a bad number for a vehicle this size. Let's look under the hood of the ZDX. This car has a 102 kilowatt hour battery, so a decent sized battery pack, but under the hood, all you're gonna see is a large Acura badge. They've hidden most of the electronics and things underneath here just to dress it up a little bit, I suppose. And let's talk about range with that 102 kilowatt hour battery. What you get in range is going to depend on which model of this car you spec. If you want the best range, you're gonna have to go for the base rear wheel drive version of the car. That will get you 313 miles of range. If you have to have all-wheel drive, like we do, because we're based in Colorado, then you're going to necessarily have a 304-mile range. that's going to be the best range that you'll get with an all-wheel drive. And then if you go for this crazy fast Type S, that's going to drop you down to 278 miles of range, largely because of these 22-inch wheels. But this car is also the heaviest version of the ZDX. It weighs in at around 6,000 pounds, so it's not light. As far as handling goes with the ZDX, this car has obviously a low center of gravity, pretty good weight distribution front to rear, and this particular one is on the Continental 275 width summer tires, so a ton of traction, not the least of which, because this car is 6,000 pounds, it's not an enthusiast car in the same way as a 911 is, but functionally it will cruise around corners at a pretty good clip, and we've got very powerful brakes and a very powerful powertrain. So if you want to hustle this car around, you absolutely can do that. All in all, this new Acura ZDX is a good all-around package, but it is in a very competitive segment. You've got to think about cars like the Tesla Model Y, you've got the Mercedes EQE, you've got the Hyundai Ioniq 5, Kia EV6, and then all the other Ultium platform vehicles that this car shares its architecture with. So the Honda Prologue, the Blazer EV, Cadillac Lyriq, there's a lot in this segment to choose from, but this is definitely a car worth getting in and driving, especially if you're looking for something slightly more upscale on the more premium end of the spectrum. And these cars are going to be arriving at dealerships imminently in the next couple weeks, and they're being built currently in Tennessee. So all of these vehicles do apply for a $7,500 tax credit, which is great. That helps with the price tag, and that price tag starts with a rear-wheel drive A-Spec at $64,500, an extra $4,000 if you want to go for the all-wheel drive model. If you want to get this top-of-the-line Type S, it's going to be $73,500, and then another $1,000 on top of that if you want to go for these Continental summer tires over the Michelin all-season tires. So you can inflate the price quite a bit if you really want to chase that performance, or you can leave it on the more simple and, well, not really stripped down end of the spectrum, because there's a lot of content even on the base version of this car. And all of those prices, you also have to add another $1,350 and destination. So pricing is a little complicated, but basically you can get into one of these cars for about $58,000. And yeah, for that amount of money, you're getting quite a bit. So let me know what you think in the comments below. That's all for this video, and we'll see you in the next.